The regular meeting of the Mishawaka Common Council for Monday, January 18th, 2021 will please come to order. This evening, we are once again operating under some altered procedures consistent with the various executive orders that have been issued by Governor Holcomb, as well as the local health orders that have been issued by the St. Joseph County Health Department. To that end, we are also providing some enhanced electronic remote access to our meetings this evening. Members of the public will be asked to place their microphone on mute during the meeting with the exception of any public hearing. At the appropriate point in the public hearing, I will invite the public to unmute their microphone for purposes of submitting such comments that they wish to make, one person at a time. All persons wishing to make public comments will be asked to first state their name and address for the record. And after completing their comments, members of the public will once again be asked to place their microphone on mute. And we thank everyone, both those participating remotely and those here in person, for their cooperation. And with that, we will move into the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be followed by a moment of silence in remembrance of the more than 397,000 Americans who have lost their lives as a result of COVID-19.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. DeMade?
Here.
Mr. Benicki?
Here.
Mr. Hazen?
Here.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Here.
Mr. Emmons?
Here.
Mr. Belovich?
Here.
Mr. Compton?
Here.
Mrs. Volker?
Here.
Mr. Hicksenbach?
Here. Approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of January 4th, 2021. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, then the minutes will stand approved as received from the clerk's office. Petitions, communications, remonstrance, and memorials.
Yes, Mr. President. We have a letter from the Board of Zoning Appeals regarding their recommendations from their January 12th, 2021 meeting. Honorable members, a regular meeting of the Mishawaka Board of Zoning Appeals was held on the above referenced date, at which time the following use variance was considered. Appeal number 2021-58, actually it would be 2020-58, an appeal submitted by Bocart Properties LLC requesting a use variance for 403 and 411 South Main Street to allow tattoo, piercing, and art gallery in the I-1 light industrial zoning and a developmental variance for reduction of parking spaces. The board, with the vote of 3-0, recommended approval, subject to the following conditions. If I may omit reading those conditions.
Please do so.
This is signed by Carrie Myers, Administrative Planner. We also have a letter from the City Plan Commission regarding their recommendations from their January 12th meeting. Honorable members, a regular meeting of the Mishawaka City Plan Commission was held on the above referenced date, at which time the following proposed ordinances were considered. Petition number 2020-24, a petition submitted by GW Mishawaka 2 LLC requesting a rezoning of 5505 and 5603 Grape Road from C1 General Commercial District to C7 Automobile-Oriented Restaurant Commercial District. The commission, with a vote of 7-0, recommended approval. Petition number 2020-25, a petition submitted by Family Video Movie Club to amend the Bercado Planned Unit Development for property at 520 Bittersweet Road to allow fuel pumps and convenience store and allow a parking reduction. The commission, with a vote of 6-1, recommended approval, subject to the following conditions, if I may omit.
Please.
Thank you. Pursuant to Indiana Code 36-7-4-605, the Mishawaka Plan Commission hereby certifies to the Mishawaka Common Council the attached proposed ordinances regarding the above matters. This is signed by Carrie Myers, Administrative Planner.
Thank you. This evening, we have no report of any special committee, so we will move into ordinances on first reading.
Proposed ordinance number 2021-01, an ordinance amending Chapter 137 of the Municipal Code of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, is from time to time amended, commonly known as the Zoning Ordinance of 1966 of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana. This is to rezone 2 parcels, total of 1.81 acres, from C1 General Commercial to C7 Automobile-Oriented Restaurant Commercial, 5055 and 5603 Grape Road.
Proposed ordinance number 2021-01 will be assigned to the Land Use Planning Committee.
Proposed ordinance number 2021-02, an ordinance amending Chapter 137 of the Municipal Code of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, as from time to time amended, commonly known as the Zoning Ordinance of 1966 of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana. This is a PUD amendment to allow fuel pumps and convenience store with parking reduction at 520 Bittersweet. It's the southeast corner of Bittersweet and Vistula.
Proposed ordinance number 2021-02 will be assigned to the Land Use Planning Committee.
Proposed ordinance number 2021-03, an ordinance approving an amended agreement between the City of Mishawaka and the Mishawaka Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 91. The petitioner is requesting second reading at this evening's meeting. This contract would run from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2022.
Thank you. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to suspend our regular council rules and hold first and second reading of proposed ordinance number 2021-03 this evening.
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to suspend our regular council rules and hold first and second reading this evening on proposed ordinance number 2021-03. Are there any additional questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, then Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Ms. DeMaid?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yeah.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
yes,
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. Then with that, we will move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance number 2021-03. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward to the podium and begin by stating your name and address for the record. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. Ken Witkowski, Police Chief of our city of Mishawaka. 200 North Church Street. I am here to speak in favor of proposed ordinance 2021-03 with changes to the FOP contract. There again, I apologize for being late in the game last year, just due to certain unexpected reasoning with the COVID and just a lot of things happened last year, a busy year, so we hope that doesn't happen again in the future. Most of these changes were just ways to make the contract easier to navigate for actually the members of the police department. Few things I can point out that I was in favorable is a change in the language. I'm sorry, this mask. The probationary officers were able to get them to count earlier as shift strength. It's always been a problem. We had to wait 6 months after they finished their training. And so, as you know, with we've been short probably 8-9 officers all of last year. And then you throw in people that are injured, and then you throw in the COVID sickness. So we're running pretty short all year. So this will help us out with future dates when that kind of things happen, where they count as shift strength, and we don't have to pay the overtime. We moved the uniform captains. We made them more consistent with the other captains on the department. All the other captains always worked a 5-2 rotation. So we moved the uniform captains into that. They work at 5 and 2. They do not count as shift strength, but Monday through Friday, that gives us an extra officer that can work the street if they chose to. But we need them really to help out and do more administrative things. As we move forward in the police department, there's a lot of different things that changes with the record system, the VCS, the just tracking officers, days off, and different things like that. So a lot more administrative things to do nowadays than in years past. We also allow them to, if they choose, we're not making them do it, the vacation days, we can change them, they can change them into random days and take one day at a time. The contract states that random days, you can only take one random day that takes you under shift strength. So that's a plus. We can kind of gauge on where our shift strength is going to be from day to day. And also the biggest thing in my book that I felt was beneficial was the way the contract reads. If you get called in, I'm sorry, not called in, you have the choice to come in. If you're on vacation, you come in, you get double pay, plus you get that day back. The way it's been running the last couple of years, we've paid 40, 50 days a year of days back. And that's like a golden egg day. They can use it anytime they want to. And it doesn't, I mean, they can affect shift strength and we can't do anything about it. So I like that one. The other stuff in here is pretty much just changing language to make it, like I say, easier to navigate through the contract. We are E-days. They cannot carry them into the next calendar year, but we are allowing them to accumulate 3 at a time if they chose to do so. Basically, that affects Detective Bureau. There again, if they get busy, we had, well, in 5 months we had 6 homicides. So we've been very busy late in the day, late in the year, and it just makes it tough for these guys to even take their days that they have coming towards them. The other stuff's, yeah, just pretty much clean up on language, things that we've had problems with in the past.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Chief Witkowski? Mr. Belovich.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chief, staffing, where are we right now with the staffing level?
We just, as we speak today,
Yes.
I'm full up. We just hired 5 people.
You say-
I think a week ago Monday, so they're fresh. We've run into some current concerns with the academy because of the COVID. They closed the academy. But this is just all new information that we started having conversations with the academy, with South Bend. So we're actually going to do a regional academy planned. I think we determined like sometime in April that will start. So very good news. We'll be able to train our own people in this area. Won't have to send them down south, except for 2 breakout weeks. But I was really worried that we're going to hire these 5 people and not be able to get them trained and prolong that, which, like I say, causes us, issues down the road. So as we speak right now, we're full, although I have another retirement coming up like February 1st, and then maybe another one, I think, in August, so I'll lose 2 more. But the other 6, they're still, the youngest ones on the department, they're still probationary, and they do count as shift strength, but they don't have their year on yet.
Thank you.
Mr. Emmons.
What's your number when you say you're full up? What's your
108,
108?
yes,
That's full staff,
yes.
full strength, I should say.
Thank you. Other questions for the chief?
I just want to comment. I've been contacted by a couple officers, and they've had the issue that they're saying that even though we were full strength, the shift strength, it stayed the same for the last 20 years, that we're like at 20 because there's so many,
Yes,
you know.
that's true.
I don't know
It's
what,
a true statement, but when we try and pass that through the contract, they turn it down.
okay.
It's a thing, do you want days off or do you want shift strength? I would prefer to have more shift strength, and we've talked about that every year, every time, well, a contract comes up, and I can't get it passed. But I would love to do that, yes.
Mr. Mamalenti.
Thank you, Mr. President. No question here, just more of a comment. Just wanted to know, off to a rough start, towards the end of 2020 and 2021. So, just wanted to extend our extreme gratitude and appreciation for all you guys do. Really tough.
Thank you very much. But kudos to the people on the street.
Right.
I'm just the guy in the office. I'm very proud of our department, the men and women that work there. We've had great new hires in the last 2-3 years, and in a time where some departments are struggling to hire people. And we honestly still have people that say that they know other officers in different cities that surround us. And the message is, if you can get on Mishawaka, that's the department to come to. So we're kind of proud of that. And like I say, we've been very, very fortunate on the men and women we've been hiring.
I agree.
Thank you.
Chief,
Mr. Evans.
just take on your new 5 hiring, were any of them women or any of them minority?
The newest ones? One female.
One female?
One female, yes.
Mrs. DeMitt.
And Chief, good evening. What are you doing to encourage women to apply?
We put the same message out for anyone that wants to apply. We've been, there again, I use the word fortunate, but we've got some really good women that have been applying. And normally, like out of, say, a group of 40, maybe you got 4 or 5. And the diversity part of that is you know, we have this, we don't lower our standards. We hire the best. And out of 40, maybe you'll get a pool of 10 or 12 that have passed everything at that point. They can pass the written test, the agility test, and then we start from there doing, you know, background checks and stuff like that. But compared to other agencies around here, we still are getting our numbers, and so far so good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Compton.
Chief, I know this, and this is intended for Pat as well. I know that was an unusual year in negotiations. But the council and I made a point to make sure that the mayor's administration, someone from the police department, Pat, Becky, were all at our negotiations. We were not aware of yours. And that was what I understood was to be part of the process. I've spoke to the mayor about it.
Okay.
He did say that it was unusual. It went quick. I talked to one of the policemen about it. They described it the same way, unusual and quick. But in the future, please,
Yes.
let us know. We would like at least the opportunity to sit in. It isn't that, you know, we understand our role. When you're negotiating the language, we understand our role.
Right.
But we would like to be part.
Yeah, I mean, I apologize for that. You weren't
Understand.
meant to be left out.
I didn't believe you
It
were.
was just, like I say, this year was just so crazy. I mean,
Understood.
it was October and I still thought it was March. I mean, just with the protests and everything that came through.
Chief, with all that's been going on and the year you've had, you don't have to explain. Again, I
I know,
understand.
but I apologize.
I just
That
want,
shouldn't have
I
happened.
just want to make a point of it. We'll leave it at that, and
Okay.
we'll talk again when it comes up again.
Okay.
And
Well, that won't-
hopefully,
that won't come-
hopefully we'll have, things will settle down and,
Yeah,
you know,
agreed. Thank you.
get back to whatever normal was.
I'm not sure what it is anymore.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for Chief Witkowski? Chief, just, you know, first and foremost, thank you, to echo Mr. Memolini's comments, for the work that you and your department do on a daily basis. It's very much appreciated by the council and all of us who reside in the community, I believe. And thank you for the work that you and your leadership team have done in conjunction with the rest of the administration and the FOP to come to us with this agreement. That's always appreciated as well. One question, and it's just out of idle curiosity more than anything else. The MOU that we were providing, paragraph 5, and then you made mention also of VCS. What is VCS? I probably should know that, but I do not.
That's how we track. It's the computerized version of how we track our days off. We used to fill out slips and turn them in to get a random day okayed by supervisor. Now it's all
It's been digitized and.
digitized, and yes, it works very well. It tracks. I mean, there's been some hiccups, of course, when you switch over, but we've been, I think, on our 3rd year of it now, so it's really been helpful in tracking everything. And everyone, it tracks your hours and time off, and, you know, when you can put them in, and it tracks also, keeps us from making mistakes on too many random days and that kind of stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to hear about the regional academy opportunity, and
Yes. That's huge.
congratulations for you and the others who have made that happen. Maybe we find out that, just like is done with fire service, if I'm not mistaken, that there's an opportunity for us to continue that even post COVID, but you'll be able to gauge that once you go through it, I suppose. The other thing I wanted to add is I was glad to hear that you now have added those 5 new officers and are at 108, although I have to be honest, it's a little disconcerting to me, and I know I've been doing this for a long time. With one of the new hires is a kid that I coached in Little League and Pee Wee football, so,
He spoke very highly of you.
well, he better, or I'll track him down, but thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much for your comments. Like I say, it's been a rough year, and sadly, we're getting very good at these very violent, high-priority type of situations. I mean, like I say, I mean, it's amazing how well our people handle the situations they're put in. You know, we never seen that in all these years in Mishawaka. But now I show up to a scene, and I mean, these guys are so good, and women. I don't mean to say that, but I mean, it's amazing. Everything is done. I mean, I'm just a spectator now, and they know their jobs and they know what to do, and it kind of proves it. I mean, we've been putting people away. We've been putting the people the undesirables that we don't like to see happen in Mishawaka. We've been having a real good arrest record.
And of course, the majority of the day-to-day support that you receive comes from the administration, and they do a good job with that, but please don't hesitate to let us know if there's something
Yeah.
that we can do
Yeah.
as a council to help support you and your department.
The whole community is very supportive of our police department.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of proposed ordinance number 2021-03? If you would, please come forward to the microphone. Seeing no one, is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor of proposed ordinance 2021-03? If you would, unmute your microphone and state your name and address for the record. Hearing no one, is there anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance? If so, please come forward. Then, is there anyone who is participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance? If you would, please unmute your microphone. Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
yes,
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0. Proposed ordinance number 2021-04, an ordinance approving an amended agreement between the City of Mishawaka and the Teamsters Local Union Number 364. This is for their bargaining contract. It will run from January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022, and they are requesting second reading.
Thank you. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to suspend our regular rules and hold first and second reading on this ordinance this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to suspend our regular council rules and hold first and second reading on proposed ordinance number 2021-04 this evening. Are there any additional questions or comments from the council? Mrs. DeMade.
Actually, I do, yes. Thank you, Mr. President. I would hope that, that we do not become too used to suspending the rules in regards to the first and second readings. The reasons for the first and second readings is to give this body time to look at the issues, to do research, and to speak to those who are involved, in order for us as a body to make informed decisions that affect all of the citizens of Mishawaka.
Thank you, Mrs. DeMade. Points well taken. Any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, then Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benecke?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
yes,
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. With that, we will move into second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance 2021-04. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward to the podium and state your name for the record.
Mr. President, members of council, my name is Tim Ryan. I'm the Director of Central Services. As Chief Wachowski did, when this came down to crunch time, and we just figured out we couldn't get together with the Teamsters 364 to actually sit down and negotiate, we decided to put a one-year extension on, and you might want to check your dates, because this is saying 2022. It's actually 12/31 to 21. That this would be the best route to go. So basically, the contract's going to remain the same, language-wise. That's all the same. The adjustments were the 2021 wage package, which was 1.5 plus 500, and the prorating of the boot allowance, which is over the course of the last contract, which was 4 years, was $600, broke down to $150 a year. So we just just added that $150 back to keep that going for them. So really, nothing has changed with it.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Ryan?
I just have one. On the
Mr.
500. The 500 was what was negotiated for, and then there was an additional 500, right? For the COVID, what the mayor did for them, and they already got that, or?
That was, well, the COVID was,
625 or 6?
yeah, I don't know, it's money, I don't pay attention.
But that's something separate than.
That was
this,
separate from the
okay.
contract.
That's what,
That
I
was for all
thought
the
that, I
city
just,
employees. The contractually, I mean, we're under the same obligation, or the same wage increases that everybody else is in the city. Some of the differences you'll find in contracts throughout the city are the internal things, the boot allowances, the uniform allowances, things like that. So the only adjustment we had to make was to the boot allowance that we give the guys, which is roughly 100, well, not roughly, it is $150 a year.
Thank you. Other questions for Mr. Ryan? And again, thank you to you and your leadership team for working with the union to make this happen. We appreciate it.
Mr. President, I do want to clarify, and it is wrong on the agenda, but it is correct in the contract. It is 2021, December 31st.
Duly noted. Then the record will reflect this is an extension for 1 year and 1 year only with regard to this work group. Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Ryan. Is there anyone else physically present who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? If you would, please come forward. Seeing no one, is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? Then we'll move into anyone who is present who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance. Is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance? Are there any council members who wish to speak? Hearing none, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benecke?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
yes,
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Excuse me. Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
yes,
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0. Proposed ordinance number 2021-05, an ordinance approving an amended agreement between the City of Mishawaka and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 1392. This contract runs from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2022. Actually, I'm looking at it, and it should be 2021 as well.
Duly noted. The record will reflect that this also is a 1-year extension of the collective bargaining agreement. And if memory
They're
serves,
requesting second reading.
thank you. At this point, the chair will entertain a motion to suspend our council rules and hold first and second reading this evening on proposed ordinance 2021-05.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to suspend our regular council rules and hold first and second reading this evening on proposed ordinance number 2021-05. Are there any additional questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, then Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker? Mrs.
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. With that, we will then move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2021-05. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance, if you would, please come forward to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the council. Patrick Hinkle, Corporation Counsel for the City of Mishawaka. My address, 600 East 3rd Street here in City Hall, Mishawaka. And this is a extension for the electric department, municipal utilities. They, through the utility board approved, the city approved through the utility board amended collective bargaining agreement with the IBEW Local 1392. There is a resolution that's attached here too, and this simply just, they agreed to a 1.5% plus $500 wage increase from January 1st, 2021 to December 31, 2021. And that's all this one did. There was nothing else. I was on the committee for that one, and as you can see, we have a number of signatures. All these guys were there, and they reviewed it and approved it. I have to take some responsibility for the fact that it didn't get here to you as fast as it did. That's my fault. I should have gotten to it sooner. It was only passed, it was passed on November the 8th, I guess, when we approved it. And then we got it passed by the board after that. But, so I should have moved a little quicker on that. I should have got to it. I just really didn't, I wasn't familiar with the procedure, quite honestly, until the clerk told me that I was supposed to do that, so.
You learn a lot the first time through, don't you?
Yeah, it won't happen next year.
Undoubtedly.
And I'll try to run herd on everybody on that next year. This was a difficult year, like everybody said, but, yeah, if it wasn't for the clerk, I probably wouldn't be up here today, so. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the Corporation Counsel?
Mr. President.
Belovich.
Yeah, Pat, you're saying it's only, no language changes, it was all just wages?
Just wages, yeah,
Okay.
just that one change.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions for Mr. Hinkle? Again, thank you to everyone else who was part of your team, as well as the union bargaining team for the work that you did. One question I have, and I neglected to ask this of Mr. Ryan as well, but is it in fact the case that all of the collective bargaining agreements that are in front of us this evening have also been ratified by the work groups, the unions as well? So
Yes.
this hasn't just been passed by the board. The unions have also ratified each individual contract that pertains to the people they represent.
Correct, it started there, and then they presented it to the Board of Works, and the Board of Works passed a resolution approving their agreement. It was a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of proposed ordinance 2021-05? If you would, please come forward. Seeing no one, is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor of proposed ordinance 2021-05?
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mayor Dave Wood, Mayor.
Good evening, Your Honor.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. So just wanted to speak in favor of not only this, but really of all of the collective bargaining agreements you've had before you tonight. Thank you for suspending your rules. It's certainly been an extraordinary year, as you know. Just want to remind everyone that when we started discussing these things, we were right smack dab in the beginning of a pandemic with really no idea what long-term planning we needed to do, how this was going to impact the city, what long-term or even shorter midterm financial impact this was going to have. And quite frankly, our folks, all departments, not just these three, were focused on doing their jobs when really, there was a lot of fear to go around, when other departments were cutting back on staff or were suspending their operations or duties, working from home, that kind of thing. Our folks have answered that call brilliantly. I've mentioned that to you on many occasions, but seemed like the day-to-day business was, other than performing our obligations to serve our citizens, everything else kind of got put to the side. So appreciate your patience with us here and allowing us to bring this here tonight. But we'll do better the next time as far as trying to get them to you earlier. But just want to tell you again how proud I am of these folks, these three departments, and really every other one for the great job that they do on a day-to-day basis. Wish we could always do more, give more, because they certainly deserve it. But we do it in the responsibility that we have to balance the budget and pay the bills and provide everybody with what is my top priority, long-term job security with good pay and good benefits. And we're able to continue to do that. That again is the priority. But proud of our folks. I would call every one of these departments here tonight the best in the state, whether it's the police, who do an outstanding job in this difficult time where we're pretty fortunate. We're getting a lot of community support, but there seems to be a war on the profession of being a police officer. It's our central services who keep our city clean and safe all year round, no matter what comes. And you've just seen with storms and ice storms and different things that nobody keeps the power on better anywhere around than Mishawaka Utilities. So my hat's off to all of them. And again, just want to thank you and thank everybody who was involved in these negotiation efforts, in addition to everything else that they've been working on. So proud of them all, and thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mayor Wood? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? Hearing none, then is there anyone here in attendance who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance? If you would, please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hickson?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0. Proposed ordinance number 2021-06, an ordinance approving an amended agreement between the City of Mishawaka Sewer Department and the Teamsters Local Union Number 364. This contract goes from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021. All of these are 2021.
Thank you. So noted. And with that, the chair will entertain a motion to suspend our council rules and hold first and second reading on the proposed ordinance this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to suspend our regular council rules and hold first and second reading on proposed ordinance number 2021-06 this evening. Are there any additional questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, then Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbach?
Yes.
Motion passes 920.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move into the second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance number 2021-06. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance, if you would, please come forward to the podium.
Yes, again, Pat Hinkle, Corporation Counsel. My address 600 East 3rd Street, Mishawaka, Indiana, which is City Hall. And this is the extension of the contract for the sewer department. This is one that does essentially the same thing that the other one did with the electric department. It, first of all, stems out of an agreement, a memorandum of understanding, what was reached between the sewer department and the local union of the IBEW, and that was negotiated by Mr. Warnock, the president of the IBEW, and Tom Dolly, who's the head of the sewer department. And again, we apologize for the lateness of this. We ran into some difficulty besides my ignorance of it, but also we had trouble getting Mr. Warnock's signature until January 6th of this year. And that was just I don't know what the deal was. I think he was just out, and we had all these other things going on with other problems with the COVID and so forth. But in any event, same thing. It just adopts the wage increase that they all agreed to, and that was approved by the Board of Public Works and Safety. There are some changes they did include this memorandum of understanding, and it's self-explanatory. And please don't ask me any questions about it because I don't know anything about it. If we would have Tom could come next time and explain it, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
All right, thank you. I almost hate to ask this question, but does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hinkle at this point? That he can relate perhaps to Mr. Dolly?
Yeah.
Mr. Compton?
For the record, I know what we're voting on here, but you mentioned IBEW a couple times. This is the Teamsters contract. Just wanted for the record to make sure that we all are on the same page.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. I get, I understand. You've got a lot of contracts in front of you, and
Yeah, why do they
Yeah.
have
be easy to confuse which group you're talking about, and I
But
get that,
Teamsters.
but that is who we're voting on.
the memorandum of understanding that does indicate that they're the IBEW? Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, it does say Teamsters.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Compton.
Yeah.
Any
sorry
other
about
questions
that.
for Mr.
Sorry.
Hinkle? Again, if you would, please pass along our thanks to Mr. Dolly and his team, as well as the members of the union bargaining team.
Yeah.
And thank you, sir.
The Teamsters.
I took the easy way out and said union. That way
Yeah.
I don't get tripped up on those
Teamsters.
things.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? If you would, please come forward to the podium. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance? If so, please come forward. Is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance? Are there any council members who wish to speak? Hearing none, then I call for the question. Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbach?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 920. Proposed ordinance number 2021-07, an ordinance amending Chapter 58 of the Municipal Code of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, as from time to time amended, commonly referred to as the Traffic Code.
Thank you. Proposed ordinance number 2021-07 will be assigned to the Public Health and Safety Committee.
Proposed ordinance number 2021-08, an ordinance annexing contiguous territory to the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, and providing zoning classifications therefore. This is amending ordinance number 5709, annexing adjacent property to be included in subdivision south and east of 1141 and 1241 East 12th Street. This is a Scrivener's error, and we are requesting second reading.
Thank you. At this point, the chair would entertain a motion to waive first and second reading and hold the public hearing on proposed ordinance 2020-08 this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to waive our regular council rules and hold first and second reading this evening on proposed ordinance number 2020-08. Are there any additional questions or comments from the council? Then hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker? I'm seeing you saying yes, but I'm not.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. Then with that, we will open second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2020-08. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come to the podium or speak at your seat.
Thank you. Clerk Block, I'm speaking on behalf of the Planning Department. What we received from Lang Feeney, corrections to the actual legal. It does not change the boundaries or any acreage. It only changes the bearings. Please don't ask us to tell you what those bearings are, because it would be very difficult. So we'd like to go ahead and have this taken care of this evening, along with resolution number R 2021-02. And it also only changes the legal description so that we can move this forward and get it recorded and published.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, Ken Prince is here.
Seems to be a theme for this evening, but with that prelude, are there any questions for the clerk or Mr. Prince? All right, thank you. Is there anyone else present who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? If you would, please come forward to the podium. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance? Please come forward. Is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0.
Resolutions.
Resolution R 2021-01, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, approving a petition of the Mishawaka Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 403 and 411 South Main Street in Mishawaka, Indiana. This is a use variance to allow tattoo, piercing, and art gallery at 403 and 411 South Main Street.
Thank you. Well, with that, we will move into the public hearing on proposed resolution 2021-01. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Council. My name is Maurice Bocart, 16400 Kern Road, Mishawaka, Indiana. I am the owner of 403 South Main and 411 South Main. The operation in question would be in 403 South Main, which is the old Mittler Car Barn building. Uh, Most of you were here back in the February timeframe of last year, when you graciously approved that zoning request, or the variance request, so thank you for that. It put us into March, and the bank pulled the financing for the purchaser because they were a non-essential business. So that acquisition of all 4 of my buildings basically fell through because the bank withdrew their financing. So what we have tonight is the reason 411 South Main is being brought up is because it will service the parking needs of 403 South Main. 403, even though 403 and 410 South Spring is an entire city block, once you leave the proper number of feet for the fire department, 403 South Main really doesn't have any parking to speak of. So I purchased 411 South Main years ago from K&D Catering to service the parking needs of 403 South Main. I'm 57 years old. Personally, I have no tattoos, but whenever I watch sporting events, I'm seeing tens of thousands of dollars of tattoos. Maria is with us here tonight. She is the tenant that will be leasing the building. She has been in the business for 10 years. She's owned her own business for 7 years in Niles. And most of her clientele are in the South Bend, Mishawaka area. So she felt it would really be a positive for her business to relocate to Mishawaka. She's very familiar with the legalities. She's on board with the special licensing that's required by Mishawaka for this type of business. I've seen her work. This isn't the I've been out drinking, let's get my girlfriend's name on my bicep. This is truly body art. This is $300 to $2,000 items. But I'd like to let Maria, speak for herself.
Sir, if we can, why don't we hold off on her comments before we see if any members of the council have a question for you? Is there anything else that you wish to add at this point?
No.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for this gentleman? Mr. Memlin?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Bogart, for your presentation. Quick question regarding the location. 403 South Main appears to be a very large building. How do you have that broken up with the tattoo shop?
Sure. The building was actually the part across from Belmont, and the center was built originally, and then Mr. Mittler added on the section to the west. So when you enter the main doors, the building is segregated, and Maria would be occupying the center end to the east, so the portion right across from Belmont. And then there's another tenant that does not require a variance for what they're doing. That's in the rear of the building.
Okay.
So it will be a 2-tenant building.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Other questions for this gentleman? Mr. Benicki?
Thank you. You're asking for a variance for this property. Now, she's going to be a tenant, you're going to be the owner. Sometimes owner-occupied is better. We've had some issues with some variances recently. Would there be a problem making this a 1-year probationary type variance where you'd have to come back in a year to make sure that everything's going smooth? Would that be a problem?
No, I think Maria operates totally within by the letter of the law. We would expect that people would be stopping by, whether they be more medically oriented folks or just folks auditing paperwork to make sure. Maria makes people sign off legal documents that they're not under the influence of drugs or alcohol. It's a different clientele. They tend to be wealthy, well-moneyed, middle-aged, folks. And this isn't like a group of 10 people in there. The reason Maria is taking as much space as she is because she also does art that's not on the body. And so she will be displaying the art that she produces in the building to do that. So in answer to your question, as the building owner, I would welcome anybody to come inspect whenever they would like, and I would have no objection to coming back in 12 months.
Okay, and then is there limited hours, or is that something that we would ask her about?
You certainly could. I mean, most of it is by appointment only. So the 10 parking spaces that we have reserved at 411 South Main, Maria has 2 part-time folks that work with her, and that's it. So because it's by appointment only, we would expect that there might be 3 cars to 4 cars max there at one point in time. But it's not really set up to be a walk-in, sit down and wait type of a facility.
But I'm saying, you know, is kind of a 10 o'clock cutoff or midnight?
I
or-
believe we talked about
'cause,
8 p.m.
You know, because
I believe it is.
sometimes after dark, bad things happen.
Yeah,
and
Maria
that's
has a
what
family,
we don't want.
and she has children, and they like their mom. So,
Awesome.
so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions for the appellant? All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Ma'am, if you could be patient with me for just one more moment. And Mr. Triple, I'll ask you to chime in on this, but judging from Mr. Benicki's question, it sounds like there is a pretty good chance that there might be a motion imminent to amend this ordinance to build in an additional condition, which is to approve the use variance for a one-year period only. If that was the case, it appears to me that it would be advantageous to have that motion take place now so that we can then continue the public hearing. Mr. Ryan. I guess I'll have to go back to reminding people about that at the beginning of the meeting. Mr. Triple, as I was indicating, my sense of it is that it might be advantageous to have that motion acted upon now so that we can continue the public hearing with the resolution as amended. Would you agree with that?
I think that's fine.
All right. Then Mr. Benicki?
At this time, I would like to make a motion that we make this a one-year, 12-month probationary type variance where we would have to come in and approve it in 1 year. At that point in time, if things are going smooth, then we can talk about expanding it. But with previous things, I think that this is the way to go in the future. And I would propose that's what we do at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to amend proposed resolution 2021-01 by adding an additional condition that would make the effect of any approval of this resolution effective for a one-year period only, subject to further review by the council at that time. Any questions or comments from the council with regard to Mr. Benicki's motion? Hearing none, then Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council on Mr. Benicki's motion to amend the resolution?
Mrs. DeMaid,
Yes.
Mr. Benicki,
Yes.
Mr. Hazen,
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti,
Yes.
Mr. Emmons,
Yes.
Mr. Belovich,
Yes.
Mr. Compton,
Yes.
Mrs. Volker,
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh.
Yes.
The amendment passes 9-0.
Thank you. And with that, then we will continue with the public hearing on proposed resolution 2021-01 as amended. Anyone else who wishes to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward to the podium and begin by stating your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Maria Ortega. I live on 8406 Deans Hill Road, Marion Center. I've been a tattoo artist for 10 years. So my work isn't like Mr. Bocart said. My work isn't something that you just, it's not spur of the moment. All my clients talk to me and we come to an agreement that it's something that, you know, they're going to be wearing for the rest of their lives. It's not like a place where you walk in and you get, like you said, your girlfriend's name or something spur of the moment type thing. So my clients, I like to do scar cover-ups, like when you get surgery, scar cover-ups. I do the nipple tattoos for like after the ladies get the mastectomies for cancer patients. I do the tattoos, the nipple tattoos. So it's, you know, just so you can get an idea of the type of clients that I have. So it's not, I don't usually like to do tattoos on the younger people because when you're young, you don't really, you know, you don't really have a good idea what you want to get. And I don't want to be responsible for them to be like, oh, I got this when I was younger, and so I like to do my work on older people that know a little bit more of what they want. So, do you guys have any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions for the
Mr. President,
Mrs. Volker?
thank you. Hi, Maria. So I'm interested to know a little bit about the art that you're planning on displaying in the building and how you intend to market that. Is that artwork available, or will it be available for sale? Will you be having gallery showings? I mean, how do you intend to use the rest of the building?
That's a good question. Thank you. No, the art that I produce is strictly just for show. It's acrylic painting. It's modern painting. I just like to display it. I have big canvases, very, very big canvases that I just want to display it. I wouldn't have any type of, sales or showings or anything while I'm there at all.
I don't think it would be a bad thing if you wanted to sell your art. Do you ever sell your art?
I do, but not paintings. What I do is I do pencil portraits, like for people that request it, for people that passed away, or just family members or anything like that. But I don't sell my paintings, like the acrylic or oil paintings. I don't sell those. I might consider it, though, in the near future.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Volker. Other questions from the council? Mr. Benicki?
Thank you, Mr. President. As I asked the gentleman a little bit ago, basically I was looking for what kind of hours are you looking to work? Is it going to be 5 days, 6 days, 7 days a week? What do you propose your hours would be?
I can't work late because I have 3 kids. So I want to take at least 2 days off. So be open, maybe 5 to 6 days. But I have 2 other people that are going to be working for me. So 5 to 6 days would probably be the max. And like I said, I don't like working late. 8 p.m. probably the latest.
Okay. And that was my next question, was how many total artists, so yourself and 2 other part-timers?
Yes.
And these are people that you've worked with previously?
Yes.
So they've got experience, things like that?
Mhm.
Now, there's been some folks in front of us recently for like permanent makeup type stuff, blading or something like that. Is that something you're going to be doing as well, or just more sleeves and things like that?
I have done eyebrows, but that's it. Like when you do face permanent makeup, it's a different equipment that's used. So I don't have that equipment. I'm just able to do like the eyebrows, and I have done that before, and it's not really much different than traditional tattooing. I use the same equipment, and it goes, on your face. It's not anywhere near the eyes or anywhere sensitive like your lips or anything like that. So I could. It's not really my preference, though.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Emmons?
Yeah. The eyebrows, the blading, does that fall under this resolution?
No.
I thought that blading was a different license and different.
Yes, microblading is different. Like, because when you do microblading, a blade is used. The eyebrows that I have done previously, I've used the traditional tattoo machines, the tattoo equipment. So it's like it's different.
And one is the slicing and one is,
Yeah, the blade is slicing, and the solid eyebrows is just, coloring
yeah.
it in.
Okay, so that would fall under this resolution, your license in that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Compton?
Ms. Ortega, I just wanted to thank you for coming to Mishawaka and opening your business here. This is kind of an unusual piece of property right on the tracks. You know, it's something that could sit there for quite a while.
Yes.
So it is, I appreciate that you coming there, and, you know, opening your business in Mishawaka. Good for you,
Thank
and
you.
good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mrs. DeMade?
Mr. Ortega, hi. I want to welcome you to Mishawaka.
Thank you.
And as a person here who does have tattoos, I think it's a great job, and I think yours will be the only tattoo parlor in the city of Mishawaka.
That's
So,
awesome.
welcome.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
in the city limits?
Mm-hmm. Tons.
Really?
Yeah, now.
Oh, see,
So while you may not be the only tattoo establishment in the city, we welcome you nonetheless.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Can anyone speak, or do I have to have, I'm new at this, I have no idea.
In just a moment, if you can hold on to that, ma'am, I'll invite you up to the podium in a minute. Ma'am, one question I have for you is, although I saw you nod your head earlier when we had the discussion about the year limitation that has now been amended into this resolution, for the record, we asked the gentleman, you know, whether he had any objections to that year-long period, and I'll ask you the same question. Do you have any objection to that year limitation, subject to further review of the council and some opportunity for you to come see us, that's now been amended into this resolution?
No, not at all. I'll
Okay.
cooperate completely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Then anyone else who is present who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed resolution as amended, if you would, please come forward to the podium. Seeing no one, is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed resolution as amended? Then is there anyone here physically present who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed resolution? If you would, please come forward. That would be you if you're in opposition to it. Yes, ma'am. If you would, please begin by stating your name and address for the record.
My name is Judy Cannon. I live in Mishawaka, 2714 Birchwood Drive, Mishawaka. I am definitely opposed to it. Number one, the neighborhood. Do you think of the people in the neighborhood, in the surrounding area, and the 400 block of South Main Street? How about, this sounds like it needs some kind of medical license to operate when you're working on the skin of people with utensils, tools, implements. Number three, in regard to the art, how can you possibly make a decision on what kind of art she is going to display when you don't even have a sample of it? You need a sample of it. You need to inspect the office when she opens it. The hours, I have no idea what she means by hours. That would probably be up to the city to keep track of that. But it does not add to the refinement of Mishawaka. Number one, I'm against tattooing in general. The Bible says, do not make marks upon your body. I go by that. It promotes a lower class clientele as well as even the upper class or the middle class, or everyone's doing it. It's ugly. When you get older, are you going to want all that stuff flapping on your skin? I mean, people don't think of this. Well, that's got nothing to do with the issue. The issue is, should the shop be open? Am I opposed to it? I am definitely opposed to it. I would rather see a music studio there with piano lessons and voice lessons rather than a tattoo. Tattoo promotes I hate to say a lower class of looking at things rather than home, more refined people, if there are any such anymore. There are a few, I guess. But I am definitely against it, and it will add nothing to the value of life in Mishawaka. It will detract. Those places always detract because, and another thing, 400 South Main, you've got, oh, excuse me, dry throat. You've got the area of the, what do you call it, lower class, lower income people in that area over there that are going to be coming through. They need money to support their family rather than having tattoos. It would make it more accessible to them to come and get tattoos. So it adds nothing to the value of life in Mishawaka. Not absolutely nothing. And that's my opinion.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Cannon? Ma'am? Ma'am? When you get to step up to the podium, then you need to stick around to see if the council has any questions for you.
Okay.
So let's inquire whether any of my
This
colleagues
is
have a
new to
question
me.
for you. No, understand. Mr. Emmons?
Yeah. I thank you for your opinion, but I take offense to saying in that neighborhood it's lower class. That's my district, and I don't relish you coming up to the podium here and creating the statement that the reason you're against this is because of the lower class in that neighborhood.
I didn't say that in the neighborhood, it's the people
Ma'am?
who come.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
we were very respectful and allowed you to speak without interruption. I'm going to ask you to afford the council that same
Oh,
courtesy.
sorry.
If I misinterpreted you, my mistake. I apologize. But I thought I heard you say that you didn't want that establishment there because it attracted the lower echelon in that area. Am I correct or am I wrong?
Oh, I did say the lower income area.
I don't remember
That
saying
live near-
income. I heard you say class. So, neither one. I'm
All
just
right,
taking a
well-
point that I did, I was not appreciative of that.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And if that's what you heard, I'm sorry if that's what I said. I'm sorry if that's what I said.
Okay.
This is quick. This is like, you have to get all of these ideas in your head without pencil and paper, without anything, without thought. And all you know is that you're against it. That's the way I feel about it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Benicki?
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Cannon, are you aware there's a tattoo parlor in the Town and Country Shopping Center?
Yes.
And have you ever seen in the paper that they've had problems there?
No.
And, I mean, there's not a bunch of people that cause trouble at them. They've been there for a very long time. They run a very respectful business, and I understand that, we have the rights to our own personal, decisions. I don't have any tattoos. I'm sure that, quite a few people around these tables do. But the city of Mishawaka does a great job of keeping an eye on all businesses, not just one type of business or another. We watch out for each other, and that's why we want to make sure that we don't have hours that are exuberant and that we can control things. And that's why, we gave her a 1-year probationary period is what we're looking at, so that if there are issues, we have an out in 12 months. So, we'd love to have a piano thing there, but I'm sure there's somebody else that would like to put a bar there. So, I mean, there's worse things that could happen. So I think that's a great use of that property. And I think that, she seems like a very nice young lady. Artists like her probably have people that follow her a long, long distance. And so I just, the reality is that it's a new world. And this is just the way things go. I mean, I've got relatives that have sleeves, I mean, top to bottom, and it's their decision. And if they want to spend their hard-earned money on that, that's their decision. But I want to thank you for coming this evening.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benicki. Mrs. DeMaid? Mr. Mammalini? Ma'am? Ma'am? There are other council members who have some questions for you.
Oh, I think you've already, I don't think any further questions are
Well-
necessary.
Actually, I don't have any questions, just more comments, if you don't mind. Just kind of you had listed about 3 items or 3 objections. One, you had asked about if this is governed or monitored by any agency. It is monitored by health department. She does have to be qualified and get certification and training on that regard to become a tattoo artist. So I wanted to make that comment. And just kind of more of a comment regarding your class, mentioning that, and in my opinion, I don't think a tattoo dictates or determines the class of socioeconomic status that you're in, so I did want to make a comment on that. And you had mentioned regarding that we would need to approve her art that she is going to hang. She mentioned she's not going to sell it. This is interior. In my opinion, she has her right to post or display any artwork just like you do in your home. So I wanted to make that point. And as Mr. Benicki had mentioned in his motion, that this is a one-year deal, that we would come and revisit this in 1 year. And if we found that she is operating in an unsatisfactory manner or unruly clients, that we would have the option to not renew this agreement. So I just wanted to make those points to yours that you had made. So thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mammalini. Other questions or comments from the council? Then, ma'am, I also want to thank you for being here this evening and sharing your opinion.
Well, that's not what I came for. I don't know when I'm
Well,
going to.
Regardless of what you came for, we appreciate your opinion, your participation nonetheless, and I mean that sincerely. And I appreciate, in particular, your answers to Mr. Emmons' questions, because if he misheard what you said, I also misheard what you said. And I heard a lot of reference to class and distinctions and assumptions geared toward residents of Mishawaka based upon where they live, how much money they have, and in particular, whether they have a tattoo. Now, I suspect you agree with me and like with the gentleman. At my age, tattoos are not anything that I'm interested in. It's just a generational thing, I think, in many respects. But it doesn't always cut across, sometimes it cuts across generational divides. And there are people in this room right now who are very well respected in the community, have been elected to office, have been appointed to high office as a department head who have a tattoo. So I think it's dangerous for us to make assumptions on who human beings are based upon where they live, what their socioeconomic status is, and whether they have body art on them. Again, it's not for me, but I respect people, and I think the evolution of referring to it as body art as opposed to a tattoo is powerful, because it's gone beyond just a picture or a slogan. It is an expressive component of the human existence at this point in time. So while I appreciate the fact that you shared your thoughts with us, and I do, again, I mean that sincerely, I think that any time that in a democracy that we have an opportunity to speak, such as you've exercised tonight, there's also a responsibility to be careful with the words that we choose and to be respectful of everyone involved in this process, whether they sit up on this dais or whether there's somebody who wants to come to our community and open up a new business. So I would just ask you to reflect on that, and whether it's going to be this evening or sometime in the future, anytime that you step to that podium and speak to that microphone, please try to be more respectful to the people who are involved in this process, just as we are going to demand that they be respectful of you. Okay?
Yes, but I would like to say I'm a very respectful person. It's not my intent to disrespect anyone here. I appreciate every department, especially after sitting here and listening to all these gentlemen, various departments, especially the police department. And I appreciate everyone's effort. It's just Okay, it boils down to my personal preference.
Yep, duly
You-
noted. And again, I think you've made that very clear, and I take it at face value that how we perceived what you wanted to communicate with us is different than your intent. But again, I would ask you to reflect on that, and with regard to any other comments that you make, please try to be a little bit more thoughtful in your word choice. Okay?
Could I say one more thing?
Very briefly, because I feel this is becoming repetitive at
Oh,
this point in
okay.
time.
You didn't ask me what class I'm in. You didn't ask me if I.
Nor will I ever ask that
poor or
question.
At the poverty level. I would be considered at the poverty level.
Well, and that's not, and that is not germane to the land use matter that's in front of us this evening. This is a question about whether this is an appropriate business use, land use, if you will, for that location. And that's, we have gone way beyond the scope of what we typically deal with and what we should deal with, quite frankly, under state law with regard to a land use matter based upon the commentary here. So while a little of that is okay, we've gotten way off track here. But again, I appreciate your comments.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed resolution as amended? If you would, please come forward. Then is there anyone who is participating remotely who wishes to speak to the proposed resolution as amended? If you would, please unmute your microphone. Are there any council members who wish to speak? Mr. Compton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to support this. I'm going to comment again that I know this is a very unusual location. It is not in a residential community area of town. I couldn't tell you how close the nearest house is, but I'm going to guess it's at least a block away. I think it's appropriate for this location. And again, I welcome Ms. Ortega, and I congratulate Mr. Bocart for finding a tenant for a building that right next to the railroad tracks could have sat empty for a long time.
It said empty for over a year.
And so I am thankful to get that back on the tax rolls, and, well, it's always been on the tax rolls, but to get that a useful piece of property, and I welcome Ms. Ortega to the community. Thank you very much for coming into town.
Thank you, Mr. Compton. Any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, then I will call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade,
Yes.
Mr. Benicki,
Yes.
Mr. Hazen,
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti,
Yes.
Mr. Emmons, Mr. Emmons,
Yeah.
Mr. Belovich,
Yes.
Mr. Compton,
Yes.
Mrs. Volker,
Yes.
Mr. Hixenbach.
Yes.
The resolution as amended passes 9-0. Resolution R 2021-02, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, introducing an ordinance for annexation, adopting a written fiscal plan, and a definite policy for annexation for the property located at AWT Inc., property located at south of 1141 and 1241 East 12th Street in Mishawaka, Indiana.
Thank you. For the record, unless she objects, we will incorporate by reference the clerk's comments with regard to proposed ordinance number 2020-08 earlier into the record of the public hearing on this resolution, such that they indicate that this reflects a Scrivener's error and a change in the legal description with regard to the matter at issue and no change in substance. And with that, we will open the public hearing on proposed resolution 2020-02. Anyone present who wishes to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward. Seeing no one, if there is anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed resolution, if you would, please unmute your microphone. Is there anyone physically present then who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed resolution? And then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed resolution? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question. Question. Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. Demade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker? Mr. Hicksabah?
Yes.
Proposed resolution passes 9-0.
Thank you. This evening, we have no ordinances on second reading, so we will move into privilege of the floor. At this time, members of the public are invited to the podium to speak with respect to non-agenda items only under privilege of the floor. Then we will extend that same invitation to anyone participating remotely. Anyone wishing to speak under privilege of the floor, if you would, please unmute your microphone and state your name and address for the record. Thank you. This evening, we have no unfinished business, so we will move into new business. Is there any new business to come before the council? Mr. Mamalenti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to remind the public and residents of the Twin Branch area that this month's Twin Branch Neighborhood Watch meeting will take place this Wednesday, the 20th at 7 p.m. It will be via Zoom. The meeting ID number is 868-546-4701, and the password is 314476. I'll also post this on my council Facebook page. Guest speaker will be Michael Castellan, who is the Penn Township Assessor. As every month, Lieutenant Reppert will also be going over the recent crime report within the city. And we will also be discussing a proposed gas station at the corner of Vistula and Bittersweet at that meeting. All public are welcome. Hope to see you Wednesday, the 20th at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Other new business? Mr. Compton.
I want to address the council, if I may, Mr. President. Martin Luther King Day. I really want to say that after seeing some of the things that have happened at the national level, I'm proud to be part of this council, and I think that looking at us, that most people would not know what party we belong to during a meeting. I'm proud of that. I'm proud that we're able to work with our administration and they're able to work with us. And I think that we need to take that, in my opinion, out to the world. Because government doesn't run so smoothly and people aren't so happy with our leadership for one reason or another. We need leaders who people can respect and somehow, I don't even like saying look up to, because I don't feel people should look up to me. I don't hold that place in life, but it really bothered me to see what happened in Washington. For anybody who've ever spent any time at the Capitol building, I think it would bother you. And I think that we owe it to our society to be leaders and to show people how government should and does work daily. And if I may, this has been a tough time in my household. COVID hit our household. And my wife has been sicker than I've ever seen. For more than 2 weeks, she hasn't been out of bed for a couple hours. So I ask everybody to follow the protocol, wear a mask, social distance, wash your hands. This isn't over yet. We're getting there. I spent some time on a call in Greg's absence with St. Joe Hospital and people in the community. Numbers seem to be dropping. That there are less tests. We know less tests mean less positives. Hospitalizations, at least during that time, were going up nationally, and deaths are going up. I have been trying to make appointments for my mother-in-law and my mother, and it's been frustrating. It's frankly real frustrating. Again, it goes back to, I talked about earlier, different levels of government. Part of it is too many chefs in the kitchen, if you know what I mean. And part of it is there's just not enough vaccine yet. It's just being produced. So the message from that meeting, after listening to that, talking about the different problems, is be patient. It's hard, especially when you're trying to make appointments for your mother and mother-in-law, and because they can't. I sympathize with the other people who don't have that connection. So if you know people who are alone and older, reach out to them if you can. It's easy to do once you get it done. And one thing I would recommend is, as you're signing up, don't just look at St. Joe County, look at Elkhart County. Because it seemed you could, for some reason, I don't know why, but you could get in a lot quicker there. So just a little heads up, but if there's people out there you know that need help, help them out. From that meeting, they mentioned that either if you've had COVID or if you've had a shot, so the herd immunity needs to be in the 70 to 80% range for us to get out of the woods. And we're not at 10% yet. So there's a long ways to go. When we were told last year it'd be midsummer, I think we're all anxious, but it's probably what it's going to be. So I thank you for the time, Mr. President, and allowing me to ramble a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Compton. Very well said. Other business coming before the council. Let me just add a couple of information items, or I guess one thank you and one information item. Today, as Mr. Compton mentioned, is the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. And I don't know how many people had the opportunity in their schedule to be able to remote into the celebration in South Bend. But it was very well done under difficult circumstances. And in particular, I wanted to acknowledge the fine job that Mayor Wood did with regard to his portion of the proceeding, and express as well the council's congratulations of the individuals that Mayor Wood nominated to be honored today on behalf of the city of Mishawaka. First and foremost, as has been mentioned earlier, the first honoree from Mishawaka, or group of honorees, was our city of Mishawaka employees who, as the mayor correctly stated earlier, have done a fantastic job to go over and above. They typically do it, but in these trying times, they have, surpassed even their usual standards of excellence. And they were very fitting of some acknowledgement. The second honoree from Mishawaka was Dr. Michelle Migliori, who works in our employee health clinic, but as we all know, also provides additional value and service to the community via her service on the various COVID task force that are in existence, and the work that she's done to help our employees remain safe through this pandemic beyond their visits to the clinic. So that group and that individual were both very well deserving of the accolades that they received. And again, I want to add the council's appreciation to them for the well-deserved honor that they received. And then lastly, as an information item, we're going to have an opportunity as a council to hear what I hope to be some very educational and informative information in the next couple weeks. The public as well are invited to participate in 2 informational meetings that we'll be conducting. The first is on the topic of economic development in general, and then hopefully with a specific focus on Mishawaka. That'll take place on Monday, January 25th at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. Again, given the limitations that are imposed on physical attendance due to COVID-19, we'll be making a WebEx opportunity available to the public. So anyone who wants to participate or at least observe the meeting will have the opportunity to do so. And that information is available through the clerk's office if people don't have direct access to the notice. And then the second informational meeting will be on the topic of our TIF bond and local stimulus initiative. This will be a presentation by Mayor Wood and Mr. Prince in particular with regard to the good information that he shared with the Redevelopment Commission recently on what it is that we're going to do as a community to try to further support the economy here in Mishawaka. That also will take place here in our council chambers on Monday, February 8th at 6 p.m. But again, a WebEx remote participation opportunity will be available given limited attendance restrictions. And with that, if there is no other business to come before the council, a motion to adjourn is in order. We are adjourned. Thank you, folks.